I see river flow so.
Hello, universe. Welcome to Pickathon, episode 22. This is your host, Zale Schoenborn. This Pickathon podcast is kind of about discovery, as we like to say. It goes about, we try to look at creative journeys. You know, that's kind of what it's turned into, talking to people about how they got into why they love music and kind of its cross-section and kind of the festival culture and pop culture. And it's kind of weird at this time of year because we're, what is it? It's like a little over a month past the festival. So things are settling down for us on that kind of wrapping it up. We've been kind of deep in the survey, which I really want to get into and talk about the survey more at some point because I think it's cool. We're really thinking that should be open, like a much more complicated Yelp review. You should just throw it out there and let people see it because I think it, if you get 750 people, which it looks like we are, a little, more than 10% of our audience, that's a lot. And that's good for us. There's a lot to unpack in that, and I won't go into it because we asked some pretty heavy questions. It deserves some more time. But, as we try to kind of figure out the future, we're working with this, this conditional use permit. We talk about that. That looks like, it's going to take 120 days. We're going to be filing that here somewhere in October, early October. So it's going to be hopefully before the end of the year, we'll know 100% about next year. But we're all optimistic here. So we're just going to stay optimistic, thinking about what do we do about this time of year? It's all about music. What is the state of the universe here with art and music and, culture? And we just start taking kind of stock again because we've been so deep in bringing what we thought, the discovery in 2023, thinking about 2024, and just kind of remind folks we're a discovery festival. We bring things that people, we're more into what is the essence of music scenes. It's a very kind of nerdy but fun way to be because when you get the essence of a music scene, what's happening, what is driving that kind of the spirit of that world, it's good. And it's almost doesn't matter if you don't like that music, you tend to love it. And that's pretty fun. I mean, we're asking some heavy questions on whether we need to pay a toll to the headliners because people just kind of want to go to bands because they've had hits now 15, 20 years ago. Who knows? Some definition of recognizable draw. And that's always part of our mix too. It's not like we don't do that, but we just on purpose really want to focus on that essence of the music because it's what I think we can compete on by making other choices. We're small. You can't really bring headliners on the scale of a Coachella because we're not 200,000 people. We're less than 10,000 people. And we did that not because we didn't want to be big. We did it on purpose because that's what there's equality. And then we try to scale it out through all kinds of other ways, content, whatever we could do. But what's cool for this year, looking at this, the thinking about the music, and it's just very early. So I'm just going to throw broad strokes out there. Back in 99, when we started doing the festival, we weren't the focus for the industry. This is where the band's going to break. It's going to be Pickathon. It wasn't happening. But I was always thinking about consuming all these styles. And it was back then, when I was growing up, bands like Uncle Tupelo, I'm going to date myself here, turned into Wilco and Sunvolt, that was a really big part of growing up in Kentucky in the South where I'm from. And I know all over the country. It was a huge movement, and Wilco's still big. But it was weird because for us, that whole scene, the folk rock or that kind of Uncle Tupelo kind of got dated. I mean, in a lot of ways, it kind of went with the older people and kind of up came indie rock and this kind of it was also still kind of the end of the grunge era in Seattle. When I moved to Portland in 97, there was still Pearl Jam, still huge. All these bands still huge. And, you're looking at pop culture, really true, pop stars are still huge. And you just kind of rewind, you look through the years of Pickathon, you kind of say, oh man, indie rock had a huge center of gravity in the middle. Your Modest Mouse, your Decemberists, you had all this, pop still going on, rap still going on, kind of in the tens of 2010s. Kamasi Washington really starting to bring back, jazz starts to really make kind of a big, influence on our festival, but just kind of pop culture, it comes back. And so you see these waves, all along there, you got country's always popping up, Sturgill, Coulter, doesn't matter. I love my music, my bluegrass and my old time, I'm a mandolin player. But it wasn't until really, Billy Strings, like, was this weird kind of phenomenon not too long, right now. But he just kind of came out of nowhere when we had him plucked from the world, when we just had friends in Michigan. Oh, he played in this friend's, backyard. You got to see this guy. And that's a lot how we get our music. And that's how we get it today. So we're just like consuming music from all over these regional gatekeepers, people that love music everywhere. We just suck it up like a giant vacuum. If you have an album out this year or coming out with one next year, and that's kind of where we're like focused, is like people that are really putting their efforts into this, not just like something they did a long time ago and it's just a victory lap. It's not really what we're interested in. So here comes Billy Strings, and he doesn't, nothing happens the first time. Second time, this is like Sturgill too. It took 3 times for Sturgill to come. And then all of a sudden he's like, boom, kaboom, ginormous. Same thing. Now Billy Strings is playing 2 nights in the basketball arena at Portland. And I mean, it's the smaller version of it, but it's insane that he's playing 2 nights in this, what is essentially the biggest venue in town. It's just absolutely ridiculous and awesome. I just love it. I love it. And Tyler too. Tyler's just a pop phenom right now. And I'm looking at kind of listening to pop radio all the time. My teenage daughter and son and just people around me. I'm just always listening to whatever. Love rap. I love contemporary rap. It's just like we're just kind of small for some of these bands that are like, tens of millions. But sometimes it works. But now you're hearing like pop country, and this is a weird thing, like Zach Bryan, and you're hearing Morgan Wallen, like all this kind of like, it's actually pop. And I'm just like, I don't think anyone really is paying attention, or they are, but it's happening a lot. You're starting to hear this really weird crossover between country. I love it. I think it's kind of cool because I really start to see now the genres are really starting to collapse. You're really starting to see raps coming into country, which has been happening, but now it's coming into pop. And you're kind of like, wow, that's kind of a pop song. It's kind of a country song. It's kind of a rap song. And what else is coming back? And what I'm loving is last year, you're starting to see this kind of alt country stuff, like goes way back to kind of like Graham Parsons, the Byrds, and even farther back, Bill Monroe and them were alt and crazy when they came out with their music in the time. Like it's happened over and over in generationals. Like music kind of shakes things up. It's getting reinvented, and it's kind of, it's heavily coming out of the South, North Carolina, and other places. But bands that were in like, Wednesday and MJ Lenderman. So you got MJ Lenderman, who's this kind of real, I just think, total amazing star. Like that dude it's just written all over it. He is kind of the modern reinvention of Wilco, but you're seeing it's just different, and it's just it's new, it's his, it's not a copy. It's like vital music, and he's dating and in the band with Carly from Wednesday, who's the coolest rock band in America, kind of by the the cool press. Like, this is the best rock band. And it's kind of a throwback 90s, but if you're really digging down, there's pedal steel in there. It's not just like some 90s like alt rock from you're hearing back from the 90s. There's pedal steel. It has that kind of countryish undertones in it that call alt country. And let's just call it alt again, because I don't know really what to call it. It's not exactly, but it's like country being mixed with pop, being mixed with you're just seeing the borders really come down, and now you're seeing this incredible reinvention of all of this awesome alt country, not like it was before. It's rough, some of it's really just thoughtful and beautiful, some of it's more like strings based, some of it's just, I'm hearing it from like a psych rock way, so I'm hearing it from all kinds of angles. And I don't think I've ever come across like the massive music since we've been doing this, where this movement is kind of excited me in a long time. I really can't tell you. It's been so long. I think the other cool thing is like cumbia and Latin music's coming into American pop culture and American folk regional scenes way more than it ever used to. And it's totally obvious that it's also on the radio. It's like you got country, pop, rap, reggaeton, cumbia, all at the same. I mean, you have ranchero. There's artists that are like ranchero artists doing rap that are on the top 20. I love it, and that's the coolest thing for me. It gives me hope. We're just not like, it's not homogenized, and people love their kind of influence, these music. And I think that's the hope for me, is like 2024 is going to be one hell of a music year. I can't even wait. We'll talk a lot about it here. I'm going to make a purpose, like we're going to talk about contemporary music, and which will feed into the kind of selection as we do this. But today, I really want to talk to one of these artists I think is also kind of blending and has a huge, bright future. And today, my guest is the Mountain Grass Unit.
Well, corn pay the man above me. How much so? Well, this
Hi, boys. How you doing?
Doing
Hey,
good.
good.
So I'm going to introduce you, Drury Anderson. That's actually a question.
Yeah, that's right.
You play mandolin and vocals. Luke Black plays guitar and vocals, but you also play banjo. I haven't seen you play banjo yet.
I do play banjo, but sometimes can't take it on the road.
And Sam Wilson on bass. So you guys are a trio. And just I'll set you up a little bit. I heard your music kind of going down Spotify rat holes and heard your like record back places I've been. And the first song on that record, Shoot the Gun, came up, and I was just like, holy cow, what the hell is going on with this picking? Like, so it is just explain, like, everything I love about Billy Strings, the raw, the absolute just underpinning talent of just flat picking, but just appreciation for like all the styles that kind of gone into that. And we'll talk some about that, because there's a lot of complexity of like, you're not just like taking from Tony Rice or or Norman Blake or anybody. You're kind of pulling from the Dead. You're pulling from it lots of things, and you're kind of starting to blend it. But there's real stylistic like influences and approaches, which are cool. So it's this. I don't want to get you guys too far out, but I think you guys are since I've found Billy Strings, you guys are like the first band that really reminds me of something super exciting in new style of bluegrass. I mean, I love Poe Ramblin'. I love a lot of traditional Poe Ramblin' boys. They just absolutely kill it, and that when you're that authentic and you're that intentional, it's so amazing. But when you're coming at it with some raw energy. Let's talk about that. How did you guys get into like bluegrass and playing music? Was that like dad making you listen to music or what?
Man, I think Luke sort of started the whole bluegrass movement. Luke was taking banjo at Fretted Instruments here in Birmingham, and his brother was taking mandolin. I got into mandolin because his brother was playing mandolin, and I just thought it looked cool. I didn't know it was like a bluegrass instrument or anything.
Right.
And we went through our rock phase and did all that. And
was that what grade was that? Was this like young, right? You guys were like,
This is probably like first grade for me when I started.
yeah.
Banjo.
Like, what made you want to do that? You're in first grade. You're just like, most kids are like not even thinking about that.
It was kind of the same thing as Jury said. Like, I didn't really even know it was like associated with that genre, bluegrass. I just kind of went into the music store, and my parents told me I had to like, pick an instrument. And so I saw the banjo. I was like, yeah, that thing looks kind of cool. And yeah, it kind of dove me into that world. And my brother started playing mandolin. And so, yeah, I didn't really listen to much bluegrass. Like, I didn't really even know what it was besides like, maybe I know my mom had like the whole Bluegrass Album Band Volume 1 downloaded. So I think that's where the roots, started.
it's pretty funny though, because it's like, walk into a music store and choose the instruments in Alabama, and what happens? You start playing bluegrass music.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how cool it is though. I bet you like in high school and stuff, it's not that cool of music. It wasn't when I was growing up. Like no one cared, even though I was up in Kentucky. And so much music came from where I came from by Cincinnati. I can't imagine it was like that popular as kids.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing is like when we grew up playing it, like elementary school and middle school is like, oh, these guys are weird. They play like bluegrass music. And then now like we just got back from an SAE gig at Alabama where like frat kids are going nuts to bluegrass
Oh
music.
hell yeah! And you guys just probably just brought the house down, didn't you?
It was a fun gig. It was a real
Yeah,
fun
it
Yeah.
gig.
was a good
Yeah.
one. It's crazy too, man. Like I think, and we're definitely of this area too. Like the whole resurgence of bluegrass music through Billy Strings, the Dusters, Leftover
Mm-hmm.
Salmon, String
Yep.
Cheese. It's crazy how much bluegrass has made like a return. We see that a lot now with just going to Billy concerts because we're big Billy guys, and seeing people we know, or hearing Billy be played over the loudspeakers of the fraternity house before we get on stage and stuff like that. It's really weird, and it's kind of gratifying to like have that, how we just kind of grew up on bluegrass and didn't know what would make out of it, and now it's just all of a sudden come at the right time to make the uprise.
That's awesome. No, it's cool. I mean, you going back like so you're if you're not playing bluegrass, Luke, on banjo, what are you playing? What are you playing like Bach or what are you?
No, I mean I was playing bluegrass like my teacher Herb Trotman at Fred Instruments was teaching me like bluegrass songs and like so I didn't listen to it and like you can't play something especially when you're given tab and you can't just play it and expect to like know how to play it without hearing it and so like he'd give me random stuff like the only one I could play was Foggy Mountain Breakdown. That one I got under my fingers because I listened to it and then there was like just funny songs like Yankee Doodle or like
Yeah.
old folk songs that are just like stuck in your mind. And like I think I learned like the Pink Panther or something one time on banjo.
Yeah. And Sam, were you friends with them at this time? Were you guys all like grew up together, like in the same neighborhood or something? Same school?
Yeah, so we all grew up in the same neighborhood. And I guess me and Luke were in the same grade. Drury was a year younger. So I didn't really know Drury, but I knew Luke. And I guess around sixth or seventh grade, Luke came to me because I had not played any music ever. And my cousin had tried to learn bass. So I had like an electric bass in my garage or something. So he's like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
and one of our other buddies got a drum kit. He's like, all right, we're starting a rock band. So we did that for a couple years. And then we had Drury come in and fill in after that guy moved out. And so that's how I met Drury, and me and Drury had PE together. And then I guess in like ninth grade, they were like, our little rock bands kind of started to fizzle. And they had been doing like a duo bluegrass thing the whole time. And they were like, hey, like, do you want to come play bass in our bluegrass band? I was like, sure. But like if I'm gonna do that, like I gotta play the right instrument. So like I just borrowed an upright from a friend and just started watching some YouTube videos.
And you're like, yeah, these are my weird friends playing bluegrass, so I'm gonna hang out with them.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, like when I first started, like I was not a big bluegrass person. I was
Yeah.
like, all right, like
I mean, it's
bluegrass,
hard in
but
middle
then
school. Like, there's not like some like. I mean, maybe now, like maybe like you said, Billy's like bringing it to the youth, but it was like not a cool thing when I was growing
yeah,
up.
at that time, like I didn't know about Billy. He wasn't like that cool wave that we see now, and I was just kind of like, well, okay. But then I caught the whatever you want to call it, bluegrass fever,
Yeah,
and here we are now, I guess.
I'm a mandolin player. My son's actually pretty ripping fiddle player too. And it's funny. He's also you guys' age. He's 19.
Yeah, I think we met
Silas.
him
Yeah,
at
we got
at
to
the
meet him at
show.
Pickathon.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys did. What kind of instruments you guys play? So I have a Haydn mandolin, Drury. I don't know if you
Okay.
know Haydn.
Yeah, I do. That's awesome. Yeah, great instruments. I I play a Gibson F5 that I've had for probably about 3 years now, and it
An
has
old one?
it's a 2005. I guess a little younger than I am. But it's doing pretty good, man. And it's like depending on the day, it could sound good or really really bad.
That's cool. Actually, I haven't. It's not so many mandolins, and I'm sure you're going to start getting makers saying, "Hey, play this one." When I was talking to Corey from Po Ramblin' Boys, he must have, I don't know, he named like 12. I was like, "Oh my god."
That's hilarious.
Uh,
Actually, funny enough, our roommate Liam Purcell is on the road Po Ramblin' Boys right now, filling in for bass.
Oh man, and I won't spoil it, but he has. I'll tell you, he got a lure mandolin. And he's got he has an epic story. Like he stalked lure mandolins on Facebook Marketplace for years, and like
That's nuts.
he got one in Greece that no one thought was a real one, and was just kind of there, and it had been marked down 65,000. Now it's 62, and I'm like, holy cow! Like, how do you think about spending that much money? He's like, I sell like 5, 6, 7, 8 mandolins or something.
Wow.
And yeah, it ends up being real. It's like, in the 200s, there's only like 280 or something. There's an exact number there of how many people actually are left. And it was a real one. It was a couple digits off of like Bill Monroe's.
That's nuts. Yeah, CJ he's a great mandolin player, and I've seen some pictures of that mandolin. It's like about 150 years old now, probably.
Oh yeah, and it's like $150,000. That's what's nuts about mandolins.
Yeah,
and fiddles. I mean, guitars get expensive too. What do you play, Luke? What is your guitar?
I've got a Santa Cruz. It's 1934D is the model. So it's like, for the Tony Rice fans, it's like pretty much like the Tony Rice model, but it's just a little bit different. It's got a different name, but it's got the large sound hole. It's got Brazilian rosewood on the back and sides.
Ooh.
But
it's old then. It's old, right? It's got to be
the
like,
wood's old, but it was built in like 2010.
Because you can't get Brazilian rosewood anything unless you had that wood.
Mm-hmm.
The old my dad has the Martin D28 Brazilian rosewood right when they stopped, like 68 I think, or 69.
Oh man, nice.
It's super nice. And so when did you start playing guitar? So you're playing banjo, you're learning banjo, but when did guitar come into your life?
It wasn't short after I started playing a little bit. Like I had one of those baby Taylors, and I had one of those cheap acoustic nylon string, like real beginner guitars, and I was going into fretted instruments to take banjo lessons, and I would see all these guitars on the wall, and I'd always go up and kind of like just mess with them. And I thought the steel string guitars were really, really cool. I was like, Mom, like I want one of these steel string guitars really bad. And she bought me one, and I started playing on that. And then I didn't really get into it until after I started playing like a lot of electric guitar, because I couldn't just like get on acoustic guitar and start flat picking. So I had to learn like Hendrix songs and stuff like that on electric first, and then
starter pack.
Yeah, the Marty Schwartz, go through that whole YouTube dive, and then I started taking from a guy in Birmingham, Glenn Tolbert, taught me some basic flat picking stuff, and then I started taking from his son Alan, who really just like taught me everything I know. And like if you put us back to back, you probably couldn't tell who's playing like which break.
Wow,
we sound the exact same.
I can second that.
What's his name? I mean, what's his name?
Alan Tolbert. And like it's funny, he literally made me like the guitar player I am now, like as far as chop wise.
Wow. Is he in a band?
He plays around a lot under just the name, the Alan Tolbert Unit, and that's kind of where we got our name from, that and the Tony Rice Unit. But man, he's a killer guitar player.
That's crazy. And how old is he? Is he older? He's
probably, what is he, Drury, like 35?
I think he's like 35 to maybe getting
40.
Closer to 40, something like that. He's just a great dude, and we all look up to him a lot. And he's a legend around here in Birmingham.
That's a hell of a teacher. There. Like, I'm curious because like in Portland, there's this bluegrass scene, but there's also this kind of like even sometimes more popular old time scene. Is there an old time scene down there in Birmingham too?
The old time scene is really not as big as you would think. It's a lot more bluegrass, but like there are definitely a few guys who love to do old time. I didn't get into it until I got to college because so many more people at Berkeley play old time than bluegrass, I
Yeah.
feel like. But
It's a big community of old time in Berkeley. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's different. Like when it wasn't big in Kentucky, but when I moved to Portland, and you might know, do you know Caleb Clowder, and do you know Foghorn String Band? You ever heard of Foghorn String Band? If you haven't,
Don't think so.
write that down. Write Foghorn String Band down. Like they kind of bring to old time, and I would say they kind of started it. I mean, the Freight Hoppers were kind of like it too, but it's another band from North Carolina. But the Foghorn String Band brought like a banjo kind of picking and the mandolins kind of twinning the fiddle, and it's like a rhythm punch you in the face, hard driving, just like bluegrass. When bluegrass is just locked in, it's just locked in like Freight Train. Foghorn String Band, and like there's a bunch of other bands that kind of spin out of Seattle. Like there's a Vivian and Riley Kumunga, they're young, they're like 23 now, and they have a band called The Onlys up here in Seattle, and fantastic. Like, just, it's cool. It reminds me, like, it just hasn't kind of caught fire, like the energy, because it's different, but I think you guys would like it in terms of, and I know style wise and just kind of rhythm wise, it's really cool. So you guys, so you're learning, and were you guys in high school then when you really created your first little Where I Land, kind of the EP in 2021? Were you still in high school when you did that?
Yeah, that was a little after COVID. So I think that I was a junior and these guys were seniors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Sam brought that. We had a couple songs. We were actually thinking of doing a whole album when we were first doing that, and decided that we wanted it to be an EP. And we were sort of looking for maybe one or two more songs. And Sam came in one day and was like, "Hey, I've got this progression and these lyrics that I wrote. Let's give it a shot." And then, Luke and I sort of inputted some stuff into the song and decided that we wanted to make it like the title track and all.
Oh, cool. So who does the writing in your guys' band overall? Like, you guys share it, or?
Yeah, we all kind of just take turns doing stuff, and it's kind of like a lot of times it'll be like somebody will write, like, for example, in Where I Land, I wrote the lyrics and the basic chords, and I came to them, I was like, "Hey, what do y'all think about this? Let's play with it and mess around." And then it's kind of like somebody will come up with like the basic idea, and then we'll bring it to the rest of the band. And if that person wants, second like input on it. But I mean, we all write different stuff, and it's really fun to see what we all come up with and collaborate. It's one of the most fun parts about it.
Was COVID kind of like a workshopping time for you guys, since you guys are all probably stuck in the same place?
I think across the nation, COVID hurt about every musician except us.
It was a really growing point for us. It helped us out a lot, actually.
Just because you were there, right? And you're in high school, so you're...
Yeah, we all lived together, like really close together, and so we kind of made our little quarantine bubble with each other.
Oh,
and
so awesome.
So we were able to just hang out every day, and we did a lot of those like live streams when everyone's sitting at home. Like we did it on the Facebook page Music Never Stops, and like a couple other ones, and it just helped. And then when we got out of COVID, everyone wants music. Our stuff's been circulating the internet, and it was honestly awesome for us. And we also got to write a lot too. But
man, it was crazy. We'd do these Facebook live streams in the basement. We'd just put an advertisement out like, "Hey, we're gonna do this tonight." We'd get together and start running it, and hook the live stream up to the TV so we can see the comments and stuff. And it'd fire us up just like a concert, because you could see there were 400 people on the live stream watching and commenting, and hell, even tipping. I mean, we made some serious money just down here playing for people on Facebook. It was awesome. We had a great time.
Really?
Doing that. And
so you got audiences built up that much, like 400 people sometimes.
Yeah, and it actually kind of, I think, linked us into the jam band / Billy scene that we were hoping to sort of measle in at some point.
It's interesting because like that jam band scene, like I was in Boulder, Colorado, and like 94, 5, 6. I mean, actually like 95, 96, and end of 90, summer 94 maybe. All blends together. And that was like, Leftover Salmon was going strong. String Cheese was just coming on. We were, some members we had bands, or we were interchanging people sometimes. And it kind of went. They kind of went into the jam band scene and it kind of be a little more electronic, like this weird like electronic music all of a sudden came out of nowhere, EDM, and it just took over everything. It felt like only kids were listening to EDM for a while, and they kind of rode that wave, and Billy kind of rode more like a different wave. It was like EDM is not so much, it's more like Fish and Dead, kind of jam band part of that world, which always existed throughout everything else. Dead and Fish always exist,
Yeah.
always have an audience. So it's kind of interesting because I kind of felt like they didn't quite go into that Fish world as much as they kind of pulled a lot into, because the EDM was becoming such a big thing. They were just kind of, and they're resurgence now. But Billy's just coming on like he's somewhere between the Dead and Fish. Like that whole scene is just adopting the crud out of him, and it's bluegrass. Like Billy Failing is brother of one of my original partners, Ned Failing. I don't know if you guys knew that. He grew up going to Pickathon, playing music. I think he met Billy at Pickathon.
Wow.
They were like, he was like kid, going, because we've been doing it for 24 years. And so like weird things happen in the world. And that was like one of them. And now they're like, it's like they're making a living. And I know you guys probably like to hear that, but I wouldn't say this is a job you could like count on, but I think times are changing. So it's kind of cool to see something that's been around for a while. As Billy's not like radically changing it. He's kind of bringing the energy and the songwriting and the timing and just like the jam, like it's all about that musicianship in the moment, just like reading the room and just like going for it. Right. Like, and,
Right. And man, I just going on that fact, like I think we've been so lucky to have people that show up to our shows and really care. And I think that's the cool thing about that community, and the Pickathon community is a great example. I mean, going to the Grove stage and having all these people give us a shot, you know what I mean, and show up and participate in the energy. I really hope that people know like how much that means to us. You know what I mean? How much that energy feeds off.
Oh yeah. They're coming to hear music, and they're ready. They're like vessels ready to like give it back. How was that? How was Pickathon for you guys? How was that experience?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was probably it was like the highlight of our summers. We were all talking about it. It was like we got there and like, I mean, I'd listened to your podcast. Like I'd listened to all the episodes up until Pickathon. And so I was kind of getting amped up for it, and I got there and I was like, oh my gosh, he was right. This place is crazy. Like, this is so cool.
It's so much different than any other festival we've played at too. Like it's just like the little things that really like added up for me. Like first of all, the food
Oh my
overall
gosh.
was amazing. Like we'd just been like, road dogging it on like McDonald's like almost every day. And then
Exactly.
we get there and it's like, oh my God, there's vegetables here and stuff. Holy cow.
From a farm down the street.
My
Yeah.
God. Yeah, that was awesome. And just the people,
Yeah,
I mean,
and then-
like the tent sites. I mean, it's like looking at the artist tent site. I feel like a fly on the wall because looking to my right and like, oh, this is Mono Neon's tent. And like, it's crazy.
Did you see Mono Neon? Did you see him play?
Mm-mm.
That guy, I don't even know. I couldn't even make sense. I wish when we released the video of him, man, it was on another planet. I couldn't understand. Like those instruments were so locked in. The first time in my life, I couldn't pull them apart. I was like, oh my God, is that a bass or a guitar? These guys are just like in some, universe. And yeah, that's hilarious. You're camping next to him.
It was nuts, man. And of course, we rolled up and standing at the tent is Andrew Marlin, and that was cool seeing, the
Yeah.
Watch House crew and
Ooh.
Tatiana Hargraves and just a bunch of names. It's really cool.
She's incredible.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was cool. I think people were beyond excited to see you guys. We kind of put you in that closing spot on that grove there on purpose because I just knew that the stars would align for you guys.
That was a reward, man, to get out there and just be in the woods for a little bit and chill out, get off the road.
Right on.
That was really fun.
So now you guys So you're not in high school. So where are you guys at now? Let's talk about that. You're not like full-time touring because you two of you are at school, like in Berkeley.
Yep.
Sam, you're back. You're still in Birmingham right now. Are you going to college there too?
I go to school at Alabama, so I'm in Tuscaloosa.
Oh, you're in Tuscaloosa.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm Kentucky, so we don't have to talk basketball, or because football isn't that fun in Kentucky. Well, so, but that's cool. So you guys are all in school. But what do you guys think of Berkeley? What do you guys think of that school? What's that been like for you guys up there?
Man, it's incredible. It's just like, honestly, like I expected everything of the classes, like, and just like the amount of information that they're going to give you. But it's really like the community and like the people around there that you're surrounded with that has just changed like the whole game for me. I'm like, oh, this is why people go to Berkeley, you know?
Oh,
It's
man.
for the faculty, it's for the especially the students you're around.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, my experience there has been great. And Boston's really cool as well.
Boston's really sick. We got a house this year.
Different in Birmingham, isn't it?
Yeah.
A bit.
What do you think, Drury? What do you think of Berkeley? You the same?
Man, I'm the same way, and honestly, I'm pretty lucky that I was a year behind Luke getting up there, you know. So I had a lot of help with him and some other friends from high school that also went up on Luke's year, just showing me the ropes, you know. And I mean, the community is great, especially the bluegrass community. Everyone is locked in
Mm-hmm.
and just kind and collaborative, and it's definitely, like Luke said, there's a reason people go, you know, oh, okay, this is what Berkeley's about.
You guys go to school with like somebody I grew up with, and one of my son's best friends, Tage Garvin.
Oh yeah.
Do you guys see him very often?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, I would like see Tage. I remember it was last year when I started like my third semester. I'd see him around the hallways all the time and just like would recognize his face, but didn't really know who he was. And then I think Jury knew him before me, and then I had a class with him. And Tage, and then I jammed with him. I was like, okay, this guy's awesome. And so we've gotten to be pretty good friends with him.
He's sneaky
Yeah.
good at lots of stuff.
He is. And well, when he told me that he was like, you know, really into like the jam scene, like the dead band stuff, we like went into our room and played like 4 or 5 songs. And I was like, okay, this is awesome.
Yeah,
This
it
is so
clicked. And I didn't know that. He was in my music application class, and I knew he was sort of into the genre, but I never knew he was like really heavy into like the dead / jam scene. And like Luke said, we got him up there and did all that. And yeah, he's a monster player, man. And he's a one of a kind dude. Really great person.
Yeah, the most understated like superhero kind of dude. You know, he's just not out there like selling himself. But he's just awesome person.
100%.
incredible musician and like even better human himself. Like,
Oh yeah,
that guy's, yeah.
I'm on the same page. Are you guys having to play other styles of music? Are you guys having like you have like a reggae band or anything like that going, or a jazz band?
Yes.
Or you do?
I got a gig Thursday night with a reggae band I'm playing with. That's funny you said that.
No way.
Yeah.
That's
The
awesome.
new groove.
What kind of reggae? Were you guys picking a era?
It's like, no, it's more kind of like rock reggae and I guess more like Sublime or something. I don't know, but it's super fun. I just get to sit there and I get to do what Jury does on Manon. I get to do chuck, chuck, you know, like the Chuck stuff. And so it's super fun. And just the guys I'm with in that band, like I'm not getting really paid at all or much for that, but it's just fun to hang around and play the music.
You gotta experiment like hell, like, and just like meet tons of great, you know, people and musicians, because it's the time when you don't have the pressure to like, eventually you're gonna have the life pressure, right? You gotta survive. I actually had a really amazing professor there too, or I don't know if he's an adjunct, but Bruce Molsky. Have you met him yet?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I got a lesson with Bruce Tuesday actually.
Sick, right? He's the definition of the tastiest guitar man. I mean, he plays everything, and he can play and sing without any. Nothing comes out unintentional. It's always awesome. That guy.
Yeah, we're actually in his old time ensemble that we just started last week. We've only had one so far, but
Oh, watch out. That's Bruce kicks ass on old time, and he's also an amazing human being. He's just so understated and one of the most talented musicians in the country, just period. Like just,
He's phenomenal. He's been teaching me claw hammer
oh my
the
God,
last
really?
couple semesters.
I love it. You are learning old timey then. You are learning. That's like, that is it.
I'm trying.
You should definitely like check out the the Onlys and they're kind of young, and then Foghorn, and there's a whole like rabbit hole. There's this cool festival that's actually up here, and you guys should get plugged in. You should used to go to once. The Fiddle Tunes up in Port Townsend. It's like curated a lot by Joel Savoy from the Pine Leaf Boys. So down in New Orleans, kind of, I mean, Louisiana. He's more in the Cajun side, but it's bluegrass, old time. It's all this kind of roots stuff, and it's the best musicians from that whole. He just brings and they all come together in this kind of old fort for a week long get together, and there's people taking kind of group, lessons, signing up for stuff. But the real fun of it is all these musicians being in the same spot for a week, kind of on vacation, kind of like Pickathon in a way. You guys would love it. So it's a cool thing that we can plug into. Like I want to stay connected to you guys, because I think you're playing music that's closest to what I play, but I love, and it's really cool to see. And I haven't seen, besides Billy, like I want to see more. I want to see more people in high school like just killing it somewhere. Are you guys meeting anyone at Berkeley? Any other killer bluegrass musicians from around the country? I'm sure there is.
Oh man, there's too many to name.
Really?
It's like
I'm excited.
It's incredible how many musicians there are there that are just like so many levels above us, like musician wise. Like it's crazy the amount of players there.
When you get into jazz and all the contemporary, like chord changes are like part of our music, but it's not like I'm not thinking music theory all the time, because I'm thinking ear, and I can hear changes. That's a whole nother level of my brain working when I start thinking music theory and passing chords and all of the stuff happening.
Completely. And the bluegrass, I mean, I would say that the tradition for bluegrass is here's how you play it back for me sort of thing, with the lessons and things. So it's definitely a completely new side of things and how you think of stuff. But yeah, I whenever we talk about, mountain grass playing at Pickathon or anywhere else, when people show up and support, we love it. But it's almost like, man, you have no idea how many people at Berkeley could put us in our graves with this sort of music. You know what I mean? It's like, man, we're just flies on the wall.
It's grit and soul though. It's something else. It's technical is one thing, but soul and grit and energy is like not, sometimes it's the difference. And so I wouldn't sell yourself short, but I will say you guys should absolutely send me bands that you are tipped up to that deserve love, because there's just not a national press media thing for our world, for this world of music. There isn't. It's like the hardest thing to go find, good, valuable scout press, like there's Bluegrass Magazine, but it's just missing. It's missing the, it's kind of celebrating the past. It eventually it catches on to folks like Poe Ramblin' Boys. It definitely starts to adopt Billy, but it's not scouting or bringing any of that stuff really out to the world. And that's always really frustrated me, is that I can't get good sense of what's bubbling up anywhere. And how about you, Sam? Are you in college and taking music down there, or are you in a different major down there?
I'm in a different major. I'm doing like accounting down here.
Day job stuff. Yes.
Yeah, I know it. But I'm still playing like a lot of music on the side and stuff.
That's cool.
It's not very exciting.
I was an engineer. I'm an electrical engineer. Well, then I got a master's in science. I had a day job. I still, all the way up to like 2022, I've had a day job. And then Pickathon my hobby grew out of control enough where now I have to be like, okay, if this thing's going to survive and have a long-term future, I just got to jump in and, I'd be sad if I didn't, and I'm going to be happy. It's going to be a good story. So we may even have a movie made. That's another story here.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of a secret reveal there. It's kind of in the works, but we talked about it that much. But it's just, when you do something long enough, all of a sudden it can become something, especially if you're coming at it with that motivations and belief of what you feel like is awesome. Like if you love it and you know people around you love it, and even if it doesn't kind of make sense in kind of like contemporary music or pop culture, you can kind of get, will it there and things can align. So it's cool. But I don't, no fret, no, there's no issues on the day job, Sam. I think it's good to be able to like, but another thing about Berkeley, we've had so many bands come through there that have played Pickathon. I wish I did more of a, I feel like this is like a perfect chat GPT question. Hey, tell me all the bands that played Pickathon Music Festival that went to Berkeley, because it's a lot of research for me. But I know Lake Street Dive actually went there. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
I have. And also, fella who teaches me mandolin at Berkeley and teaches me and Luke's David Grisman ensemble has mentioned he played there. Joe K. Walsh, mandolin player.
Oh, yeah.
I think he might have played with his current group, Mr. Sun, there, but I'd have to check. But
yeah, he played with Mr. Sun. I wonder which one he played with. I mean, we've had tons of bands. I know musicians went there. Lake Street Dive's on my mind because I remember when they were in school, like just graduated, and they played several times at Pickathon before they blew up. And the first time they played, they came back for Halloween. They like literally drove to the farm, wanted to be kind of, because it was so fun for them. And we were just like, there was nobody there. We were just kind of hanging out in the barn, Galaxy Barn.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. It was so great. And now like they're, headlining festivals, and it happens fast. Like that's the cool thing for like, music in general is like, I think it's cool that it's a great move just to kind of slow brew it and get as much under your, explore as much as you want, and get in all while you're in school. Cause I think once you come out and it becomes a real business, or if it can become a business, it goes fast, right? And you get less time for all the exploring stuff all the time. It really is harder because you got to go tour and all the fun stuff you have to do. So like vacuuming up everything, workshopping all the time is like, yeah, it's kind of, I mean, you guys like it. So that's what's so cool about it. Like you're in that kind of phase in your life where it's not work. It's just fun, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. So try to make the most out of it, I guess.
Okay. Well, let's look a little bit, look ahead here a little bit. What, do you have a record or any other songs in the can? You guys thinking of anything?
We've been writing a good amount, especially on the road. We wrote a few songs, and we definitely want to put something out. We just got to find the right studio and the hours to do it, like get a date. And so we're either thinking about putting out maybe another EP or maybe even possibly an album. And then, yeah, other than that, we're touring when we can on weekends. Like me and Drury flew down this weekend to play a gig. Sam's flying up next weekend to play a gig. And pretty much anytime we can tour, we will. Next summer, I think we're going to hit it pretty hard with the touring. If we're not in the studio, we're probably going to make like some time to get in the studio. But other than that, we're going to be on the road touring pretty heavily.
Anytime you guys are thinking of that, let us know. We're getting more into kind of like helping, and I feel like we want to kind of be part of making it, saying, hey, we did our part here. These guys have become, they blew up. So yeah, it's been really awesome getting to talk to you guys today. I'm totally excited for your future. I can tell when things are obvious. Like if you guys really keep to it, keep open, stay humble, and work hard. Like life's complicated enough just to make a living. And it sounds like you guys are friends, and you guys can like talk about all kinds of weird stuff that happens in life, because bands are like weird marriages, and sometimes blow up because people can't talk and compromise. It's all the same stuff you have in like being like a marriage. So like, I wish you good mental health there, that stay there. I don't want anything getting in your way of taking over the world. So
well, thanks, man. We really appreciate it. And you got one hell of a festival going.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll be back at some point.
Oh yeah, it will happen, and we're not tipping our hat or anything, but we love you guys and looking out for you. Say hi to Tage. Shout out to Tage.
Shout out to
and yeah, this has been a great podcast, guys. The end of episode 22. And yeah, we'll be back next week here talking more about music and whatever's going on in pop culture, music festival wise. And peace out, everyone. Have a good one. Hey, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
You've been listening to the Pickathon Podcast. This podcast is produced by Zale Schoenborn, Tanner McCullough, and Evan Throckmorton. Our artwork is by Travis Bone, and additional support by Ryan Stiles. The music you heard in this episode was by our guest of honor, Mountain Grass Unit. The songs included were Jericho, Shay's Rebellion, and the one we're riding out on right now, Bowling Ball. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And be sure to tell your friends about where they can get on the Pickathon bandwagon. Thank you to the whole Pickathon family. And like Zale said, we'll catch you all next week.
Like a bowling ball.